NCIS Females Actresses, Real Age versus Character, Age 2026. Surprising differences. What if the biggest secret in NCIS isn't hidden in the cases, but in the ages of the women solving them? For years, these characters felt ageless, composed, sharp, and seemingly untouched by time. But when you line up their real ages against the roles they played, the differences are shocking. Some were portraying authority far younger than we imagined. Others carried decades of life into characters written as timeless. Once you notice the gaps, NCIS looks very different. Sasha Alexander as Caitlin Kate Todd. Kate Todd was written as a battle-tested federal agent, someone who felt older than her years and already shaped by loss. In reality, when Sasha Alexander stepped into NCIS, she was just in her early 30s, far younger than the authority Kate projected on screen. That contrast becomes clearer with time. After leaving the series, Alexander didn't disappear. She redefined herself through long-running success on Rizzoli and Isles, where she spent 7 seasons as a lead. Today, she balances acting with producing and a stable family life, far removed from the abrupt tragedy that defined Kate. The surprising difference isn't only age, it's how much longevity Sasha Alexander built after a role many assumed would define her forever. Polly Perrette as Abby Shudo. Abby Shudo felt timeless, a character whose energy made age irrelevant, almost cartoonishly immune to time. But when NCIS began, Polly Perrette was already in her mid-30s, older than most viewers ever imagined. As the years passed, that gap widened quietly. After leaving the show, Perrette made a rare decision. She stepped away from acting entirely. Instead, her real life shifted toward activism, charity work, and public advocacy, particularly around social justice and survivor support. In 2026, she remains outspoken and visible, just not on television. The real surprise isn't Abby's age, it's that Polly Perrette chose purpose over fame, closing the door on Hollywood while her popularity was still enormous. Emily Wickersham as Ellie Bishop. Ellie Bishop entered NCIS as the young analyst, often portrayed as inexperienced and still finding her confidence. Yet Emily Wickersham was already in her early 30s when she joined the cast, much closer in age to her senior co-stars than fans realized. That difference explains Bishop's unusually fast evolution on screen. After exiting the series, Wickersham's life took a quieter but notable turn. She married musician James Badge Dale and welcomed motherhood, stepping back from constant television work. Rather than chasing another procedural role, she prioritized family and selective projects. The age contrast tells a deeper story. Ellie was growing up on screen, while Emily was already choosing stability off it. Maria Bello as Jack Sloan. Jack Sloan arrived fully formed, confident, emotionally complex, and unmistakably seasoned. Unlike many NCIS roles, her character's maturity closely matched Maria Bello's real age, as Bello joined the show in her early 50s. But the real difference appears after her exit. Bello's career has since expanded beyond acting into writing, producing, and outspoken activism, including work on women's rights and global humanitarian causes. She has continued appearing in high-profile films while also redefining what success looks like in midlife. In a genre that often hides age, Jack Sloan embraced it. The surprise isn't how old Maria Bello was, it's how powerfully she turned age into authority rather than limitation. Jennifer Esposito as Alex Quinn. Alex Quinn appeared as a capable, grounded agent still finding her footing within the team. When Jennifer Esposito joined NCIS, she was already in her early 40s, older than the character's implied stage, and carrying years of experience audiences didn't immediately see. Her departure wasn't a mystery of age or relevance, but health. Esposito later spoke openly about living with celiac disease, reshaping her priorities and career pace. Since then, she's continued acting selectively while launching successful wellness and food ventures tied to her diagnosis. The surprising difference isn't age, it's resilience, turning a hidden struggle into a sustainable second act. Deanna Reasonover as Casey Hines. Casey Hines arrived with youthful confidence, written as the next-generation scientist stepping into Abby's shadow. Yet Diona Reasonover was already in her late 20s when she joined, closer to a seasoned professional than a rookie. That balance showed. Outside NCIS, Reasonover expanded steadily recurring television roles, voice work, and increased visibility as an LGBTQ+ advocate. Rather than rushing to replace a beloved predecessor, she carved out her own lane on screen and off. The difference isn't dramatic age gaps, it's how maturity quietly powered a smoother transition than fans expected. Katrina Law as Jessica Knight. Jessica Knight entered NCIS as confident and battle-ready, a character written with years of field experience baked in. That fit was natural. Katrina Law joined the show in her mid-30s, closely aligned with Knight's implied age and intensity. What's striking is how prepared Law already was. With a background in action-heavy roles and martial arts training, she stepped into the ensemble without the usual adjustment curve. Since joining, her profile has risen steadily, positioning her as a long-term anchor rather than a temporary addition. The surprise isn't the age match, it's how seamlessly preparation translated into authority. Lauren Holly as Jenny Shepard. Jenny Shepard carried the weight of leadership, written as a woman shaped by history, power, and loss. Lauren Holly was in her early 40s during her run, closely mirroring the character's gravitas rather than being aged up. After leaving NCIS, Holly didn't chase procedural dominance again. Instead, she shifted toward smaller projects, Canadian television, and producing, choosing balance over spotlight. Her later career became quieter but intentional, far from the high-stakes authority Jenny embodied. The difference isn't about age, it's about choice, stepping away from command roles to redefine fulfillment on her own terms. Margot Harshman as Delilah Fielding. Delilah Fielding read as hyper-competent and emotionally contained, a specialist whose authority felt earned. Margot Harshman joined NCIS in her early 30s, but her credibility came from range audiences already knew from Even Stevens. After NCIS, she didn't chase splashy leads. Instead, she kept a steady presence across television and voice work while prioritizing motherhood and privacy. The key difference isn't age, it's trajectory. Harshman chose consistency and balance over reinvention, turning reliability into a long game rather than a headline. Scotty Thompson as Dr. Jean Benoit. Dr. Jean Benoit carried grief and resolve well beyond her years, making the role feel lived in. Scotty Thompson was only in her mid-20s at the time, a striking gap that amplified the performance. Post-NCIS, she built a diverse resume with roles in 12 Monkeys and The Blacklist, proving she wasn't bound to procedural drama alone. She later expanded into advocacy and independent projects. The surprise isn't how young she was then, it's how early she learned to choose range over repetition. Liza Lapira as Michelle Lee. Michelle Lee projected command and polish, the kind of presence that reads older than it is. Liza Lapira was already in her early 30s, matching that authority with ease. After NCIS, her career accelerated through prominent roles on Don't Trust the Bee, in Apartment 23, and later The Equalizer, cementing her versatility. Rather than staying in one lane, she crossed comedy and action fluidly. The difference isn't age, it's momentum, turning one commanding role into a broader, enduring profile. Laura Sangiacomo as Dr. Grace Confaloni. Dr. Grace Confaloni arrived with calm wisdom that couldn't be faked. Laura Sangiacomo was in her mid-50s, and the alignment showed. Beyond NCIS, she continued steady work on television, including Saving Grace, while remaining active in advocacy for disability inclusion, inspired by her family life. There was no reinvention arc here. Her distinction lies in authenticity, choosing roles and causes that matched her stage of life, not ones designed to hide it. Darby Stanchfield as Shannon Gibbs. Shannon Gibbs lived mostly in memory, her impact carried through absence and loss. Darby Stanchfield was in her early 30s, younger than the emotional weight Shannon represented. After NCIS, she emerged powerfully on Scandal as Abby Whelan, a role that finally placed her at the center of the story. That shift mattered. The contrast isn't age, it's visibility. Stanchfield transformed brief tragedy into a career-defining rise, proving presence can arrive long after first impressions fade. Cote de Pablo as Ziva David. Ziva David was written as a fully formed operative, someone whose instincts felt shaped by years of violence and loss. Yet when Cote de Pablo first appeared on NCIS, she was only 28, far younger than the battle-hardened Presence viewers believed they were watching. That illusion made her unforgettable. At the height of popularity, de Pablo stepped away, refusing to be locked into one role, and shifted toward film, theater, and music, including starring in The 33 and releasing her own musical projects. Away from television, she kept her private life deliberately low-key, rarely courting publicity. When she finally returned to NCIS, it wasn't nostalgia, it was control. The real transformation isn't Ziva's survival, it's that Cote de Pablo proved disappearance can be strategic and timing can be power. In the end, NCIS didn't just blur fiction and reality, it quietly rewrote how we see age, experience, and authority on screen. Once you notice the real ages behind these roles, every scene feels different. So which difference surprised you most? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more Then and Now stories that change the way you watch your favorite shows.